Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here you're so welcome. I'm Jane and my husband Michael is behind the camera. We're British, early retirees, debt and mortgage free, and living a thrifty, frugal and money saving life on a super tight budget here in Brittany in northwest France. And every Wednesday we invite you into our home, usually the living room, but I'm in the kitchen because it's warm at this time of year, for a mid-week money chat. Another tricky topic this week. Get settled. Let's get talking about this. Today we're going to unpick, unravel, have a chit chat about food security. Nobody's out there coming to our rescue, are they? We're not seeing governments anywhere incentivizing farmers to grow more or to have more animals. We are not seeing governments supporting farmers to get cheap energy to them or get water storage to them at affordable prices. We're not seeing that. Please correct me if I'm wrong, or if you're a farmer and you know differently. But we are not seeing that kind of help towards food production and help towards food security. We've had many years of plentiful cheap food, and we're seeing it coming to a crashing end right before our eyes. We're living through this right now, aren't we? So we are seeing increasing food shortages. We are seeing increasing food scarcity. So today is a very tricky topic about food security. And I'm not talking global food security. I'm talking about your food security and my food security on a domestic level. I think something that we are all going to have to be far more prepared for are seasonal shortages. I was having a lovely conversation with my mum the other day. My mum is in her 80s, and mum was telling me the fact that, once upon a time you just didn't have certain foods at certain times of the year. You didn't have lamb at any time but in the spring. You have more chickens to eat in the spring, you have more beef to eat in the winter, and so on. And I think we're going to need to return to thinking about what we can get seasonally. So this time of year, these hungry months, there are going to be shortages, and I think we're all going to have to get used to that far more. If farmers are not incentivized to grow, if it's not affordable for them to grow, they are going to have to just put in the ground or put in a barn or put in a field whatever they are going to absolutely definitely sell for the right price. They are business people. So we are going to have to get used to those seasonal variations. What does that look like on the home front? What does that look like domestically? If you have a large family to feed and you have a freezer, you need to be putting away frozen fruit and frozen vegetables throughout those autumn months to keep you going for the next 6 months. You're going to have to start thinking about those tinned fruits and vegetables that you will supplement with now. Because what you're going to see at this time of year, I think from now onwards and into the future, for the foreseeable future, let's hope it's not going to be like this forever, but for the foreseeable future, we are going to see massive price rises of certain foods at certain times of the year due to shortages. The next thing I think we're all going to have to start doing is being really knowledgeable about when our stores get deliveries. Now, when Mike and I were still working, we used to get into Plymouth to start work for sort of around 7:30 in the morning. And occasionally we would call into Sainsbury's supermarket on the way in. It was always, most supermarkets in the UK, most supermarkets here in France, they are stocked up first thing in the morning. But you need to think to yourself is, when do they get their stock? When do they get their delivery? And here's another one. And this one I learned from my dad, because he's the one in their family who does the shopping. And he said, I asked them, I sat there, I talked to people, I asked them on the meat, I asked them on the vegetables, what day do you get your deliveries? When do you get your deliveries? He said, I'm nice to them, and I said, oh, you've got hard work to do here, and I'm chatting them up, and I'm being nice to them, and finding that out. It might mean that you might need to go shopping before you go to work. If you're one of those people who you don't finish work until 5 and then you go to the supermarket and you get there and there just isn't the supplies and choices that you're used to, it might mean that you need to go before work to get those essential things. So you might need to get a couple of cool boxes. Look out for those, they still are affordable. We found our cool box in a local charity shop. Get a couple of cool boxes, keep them in the back of the car, in the boot. Maybe keep a couple of blankets over them to keep everything cool in there. But really get to learn, when do the stores get their supplies? And you might, and this is something else I've learned from my dad, he'll tell me, well, I can't get it all in one shop, so I go from that shop and then I get some things from another shop. You might be saying to yourself, it's not worth me doing that. But if it is worth you doing that, learn when the stores get their supplies in. What day do they get their deliveries? I've shared with you that our local supermarkets, the big shopping days are Wednesday, Thursday and Friday. So that's when they get the bulk of their supplies in. They're obviously getting fresh supplies all of the time, but anything like meat on offer or those things that are on offer, look out for those days as well, because they have days and they have patterns. Ask them in your store, when do you get your supplies in? What time do they come in? What's the best time for me to come in to get my fresh food? The next one about food security is about staying calm. Now, I brought up 2 children, and it was always vitally important to me as a mum who really didn't have much money, and sometimes didn't have enough money when bringing up those children, was that I always had cupboards full and freezer full and fridge full of food. And of course, that supply went up and that supply went down. But I can remember as a mum with very, very little money, I can remember that real sense of concern, and sometimes it verged on panic. But I remind myself, and I remind you, because I'm having a chat with you right now, is to stay calm and not to go crazy and buy too much. Because it's very easy to think to yourself, well, tin tomatoes are on offer. I'll go and buy 40 tins of it. I'll go in and buy 10 tins from this one and 10 tins from that shop. And then you've got a massive supply of stuff. So remain calm about this. You know, gather yourself and think to yourself, yes, they're telling me I can buy X amount. Well, don't buy X amount if you only need 1. Do everybody else a favour as well. Now, Mike and I do stock up. But when I say we stock up, we buy 2. We work on the basis that 2 is 1 and 1 is none. So we buy 2. So, for example, when meat was on offer, we might buy maximum 2 of those. Or usually we only buy 1 because it's a big pack. So our food security is the way we do it. That would be very, very different if you are a large family. It would be very, very different if you were 100 miles or kilometres from the nearest stores, or you lived in the Alps, or you lived in the Pyrenees, or you lived in, the middle of nowhere. It would be very, very different. And I'm sharing with you what we do. But it's very important for me to remain calm, because I do know that I have food anxiety. I have 2 anxieties. Money anxiety, I've always got to make sure we've got enough money. And the other one is food anxiety, that I've got to make sure we've got enough food. And that can mean, and if you share that anxiety with me, leave me a comment below, because I can't be the only one who always thinks we've got to have a lot of food in the house. So At times like this, when we are going through times of food insecurity and food shortages, remind yourselves, this is an emotion that is really quite raw with me, and I do need to be calm because we don't need to overbuy. When it comes to food security, it really helps me as a buyer, and maybe it helps you too, to diversify where we are shopping and getting our food from. And something that we do here, and it might be helpful to you, is we very much look for local suppliers, and we can do that here. We live in Brittany. The French for Brittany is Bretagne, and we're seeing that word Bretagne on all our food. And we are making sure that when we're buying it as locally as possible. So this is what we do. We buy it from this area first. We buy it from 29 or 22. Those are the two local areas. We buy it from 29 or 22 first. If we can't get that, we get it from Brittany, which is our department. If we can't get that, we get it from France. If we can't get that, we're looking like we don't really want to go any further afield than France or than Spain or Portugal or Italy for our food supplies. So we're looking to get it as local as possible. And then we're looking at our local small retailers. And that means our local market. And we try to do that and get all our vegetables from the local market as frequently as we can. So that means every other vegetable shop that we do, we get it from the market. And we have markets all around us in our various towns. But we've noticed they are the same suppliers. They are the same market traders who move market to market. But you can look for that differently in different places. Are there food cooperatives where you live? Are there farming cooperatives where you live? Are there vegetable and fruit box suppliers where you live? Are there market gardens where you live? Are there food surplus sellers where you live? We have them here, the word for it here, and I'll give it the English pronunciation, anti-gasp, anti-waste shops. In the UK, there were plenty of retailers when I was there, and from my research, they are still there, who sell short date food. So those suppliers are still there. We have outdoor markets here in France. In the UK, they have indoor markets. They are called pannier markets, indoor covered markets. My favourite place for that was the pannier market in Plymouth, with lots of independent small retailers in there and independent small fruit and veg shops all around the UK as well. And look for those wherever you live. Look for the smaller local retailers and diversify where you're spreading and your money around. You keep them going, and it keeps that food security local. If we're buying it, can we get it locally? Something I wish to share with you, where we live here in Brittany, if I drive between our house and the north coast, I will hit farm after farm after farm. And they are growing those seasonal vegetables, everything from cauliflowers to cabbages to carrots, all of those things, and the seasonal vegetables all throughout the year. So there's another piece of food security. We need to be doing more to shop locally and look for those smaller suppliers, because they can get their food from a diverse range of suppliers themselves. I'm now going to raise the tricky topic of debt, because it worries me at the moment that people are going to feel very concerned and they could go into debt. So buy what you can, and when it comes to long-term food, store what you can. But I'm going to be short and sweet about this and say to people, my best advice on all of this is, please do not borrow money or use your credit card and think to yourself, I need to go out and buy all this food now. It's really not to your advantage to get yourself into debt to build up a food supply. Do what you can. Now, Mike and I work on the basis of 10% of our supermarket budget each month goes into long-term supply. And what I've done in January and February in my supermarket spend has not just gone into food supply, but it's gone into toiletries, cleaning products, bathroom tissues, and laundry products. And I have got pretty much a year's supply of that now. So I'm giving you my best advice here. Please do not go into debt to build up a long-term food supply. Over the last few years, we've really been working on our long-term food supplies. So whereas once upon a time, I really didn't have much in tins, I didn't have a lot of dried food. I would just buy food as and when I wanted it, as and when I needed it, according to whatever was on my menu plan. And I think more and more of us are not doing that. So I've got a really good list here, and it's not complete, it's not comprehensive, and please come on, join in, leave some comments below if I've left anything out. But these are the things that we've checked our cupboards today, that we know that we have got plenty of, that we can use to supplement our meals when other things in the stores are in short supply. So we always have lots of sauces, pasta sauce, Chinese stir-fry sauces, Indian curry sauces, all of those things that you can add to very bland food and make them really tasty. We make sure that we have plenty of everything in a tin, from tinned tomatoes, tinned potatoes, tinned fruit, tinned vegetables, tomato concentrate, from passata, sieved tomatoes, that we make sure that we have lots of other things. So we've always got about a year's supply of rice, of flour, of pasta, because I buy gluten-free and they're not so easy to find. That we have pickles, that we have spreads, that we have Marmite, that we have syrup, like golden syrup that we eat. For you, it might be maple syrup, that we make sure we have plenty of honey and jam, of peanut butter. That we also make sure that we keep a good supply of tea, of coffee, of seasonings, of baking supplies, of beans, of lentils, of seeds, of nuts, of applesauce. And I really have missed loads out, but please leave a comment below. And when I'm buying these and I'm doing a stock check of these, I'm always thinking to myself, what can I put these in? What can I use these tinned tomatoes for? So if I'm making a stew, I add in tinned tomatoes. I'm getting another load of goodness from those tomatoes. If I'm making a sausage casserole or a chicken casserole, I'm adding a tin of beans to that, of haricot beans, or I'm adding in black beans like I have in recent burgers. So I'm thinking to myself, am I getting more proteins? Am I getting more nutrients from my food? So those are the things that I think for food security that all of us need to do a stock check and think, what am I low on? What do I need to add to? And more importantly, what do I need to use up? My final point about food security and food insecurity is all of us are going to have to expect to pay more. As I said at the beginning, we've had a plentiful supply of cheap food for a very long time, and we are seeing the production of food reduce. I know, it's crazy, isn't it? Production of food reduce. So if the production of food is reducing, the food that's there is going to cost more. So how do we prepare ourselves for this? Make sure you are absolutely on a budget, on a written budget, that you know exactly what you're spending on everything else, and you make sure that your number one priority for your family is that you are putting aside the money to feed everybody. Make sure, like I've said, that you're putting away food that stores, that you've got a buffer, that you've got that there. Be prepared for those seasonal changes in food prices. But we are going to have to be prepared to pay more. Farmers are paying more for water. They're paying more for energy. They're paying more for animal food. They're paying more for fertilizers. Everything costs. Even organic farming and spreading manure on the fields costs money. So be prepared for the fact that we are all going to have to pay more for our food, even if it's only temporarily, even if it's only this year, next year, or the coming years. We are going to have to be paying more for our food. So budgeting is more important than ever. Now I have a question for you. What are you doing on your own domestic home fronts to shore up your own food security? What are you doing differently? Are you shopping around more? Have you changed the time you shopped? Have you changed the amount of stores that you go to? Are you doing things differently? Have you stepped up your own food preservation? Have you bought a dehydrator? What are you doing differently? Because I think in this sharing community, the more information that we all have and the more we share with each other, the more we can do to help our own food security in our own communities. Just leaves me to say thank you to everybody who watches, everyone who hits the like button, to all the subscribers. We are so close to 25,000 subscribers, and if you're not a subscriber, come on, hit that button. It costs you nothing. We love all of your comments. We read every single one of them, and we'll see you again soon. Bye for now.